What if I told you that a prophet who lived 2,700 years ago predicted the fall of empires, the coming of a suffering Messiah, and the end of the world as we know it, all in vivid cinematic detail? Isaiah wasn't just a prophet. He was a poet, a political advisor, a mystic who saw God's throne room, and a voice crying out in the darkness of human rebellion. His book is a masterpiece that spans decades of turmoil, from the glittering halls of Jerusalem's palace to the smoking ruins of conquered cities. Inside these 66 chapters, you'll find some of the most haunting images in all of Scripture: a coal burning away sin, a virgin conceiving a child called God with us, a servant so disfigured that people turn away, yet through his wounds the world finds healing. This isn't your Sunday school Isaiah. This is raw, dangerous, beautiful prophecy that has shaped kings, inspired revolutions, and pointed humanity toward hope when everything seemed lost. Buckle up. We're about to journey through Isaiah like you've never experienced before. The book opens with God calling heaven and earth as witnesses against his own people. In chapter 1, verse 2, the Lord speaks through Isaiah. "Hear, O heavens, and give ear, O earth, for the Lord hath spoken. I have nourished and brought up children, and they have rebelled against me." It's a father's heartbroken complaint against ungrateful children. God continues in verses 3 and 4, saying, "The ox knows his owner, and the donkey knows his master's feeding trough. But Israel doesn't know God. His own people don't understand. They're a sinful nation, people loaded down with guilt, children given to corruption. They've abandoned the Lord and turned their backs on him." The prophet describes what he sees in verse 6. "From the sole of the foot even unto the head there is no soundness in it, but wounds and bruises and putrefying sores. They have not been closed, neither bound up, neither mollified with ointment. The nation is like a sick body, covered in infected wounds that nobody has bothered to treat. Your country lies in ruins. Your cities are burned with fire. Foreigners are eating up your fields right in front of you. The daughter of Zion is left like a shelter in a vineyard, like a hut in a cucumber field, like a city under siege." In verse 9, Isaiah says, if the Lord hadn't left them a few survivors, they would have become like Sodom and Gomorrah. Jerusalem, once faithful, has become a prostitute. Justice used to live in her streets, but now murderers fill them. In verse 21, God declares, "How is the faithful city become an harlot? It was full of judgment, righteousness lodged in it, but now murderers. The city's silver has turned to waste, and her wine is mixed with water. The leaders are rebels, friends with thieves. Everyone loves bribes and chases after gifts. They don't defend orphans or listen when widows bring their cases to court." God isn't interested in their endless sacrifices. In verses 11 through 13, he tells them, "To what purpose is the multitude of your sacrifices unto me? Saith the Lord, I am full of the burnt offerings of rams and the fat of fed beasts, and I delight not in the blood of bullocks, or of lambs, or of he-goats. Bring no more vain oblations. Incense is an abomination unto me. When they spread out their hands to pray, God hides his eyes. Their hands are covered in blood." God tells them in verse 16 to wash themselves, make themselves clean, and stop doing evil. They need to learn to do right, seek justice, and defend the oppressed. Then God makes an offer in verse 18. "Come now, and let us reason together, saith the Lord. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. Though they be red like crimson, they shall be as wool." In chapter 6, verse 1, Isaiah records, "In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw also the Lord sitting upon a throne, high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple." This wasn't a dream or a metaphor. Isaiah saw the living God with his own eyes. The train of his robe filled the temple. Above the Lord stood seraphim, each having 6 wings. With 2 wings they covered their faces, with 2 they covered their feet, and with 2 they flew. They called to one another, and their voices were so powerful that in verse 3 they cried, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory." When they spoke, the doorposts and thresholds shook and the temple filled with smoke. Isaiah's immediate reaction in verse 5 was terror. "Woe is me, for I am undone, because I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. For mine eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts." Standing before absolute holiness, Isaiah suddenly saw his own corruption clearly. He was ruined, finished, destroyed, not because he was worse than others, but because in the presence of perfect purity, even the best human looks filthy. One of the seraphim flew to him, holding a burning coal he'd taken with tongs from the altar. In verses 6 and 7, the seraph touched Isaiah's mouth with the coal and said, "Lo, this hath touched thy lips, and thine iniquity is taken away, and thy sin purged." The pain must have been intense, but it was a cleansing pain. Then Isaiah heard the voice of the Lord asking, "Whom shall I send, and who will go for us?" Without hesitation, Isaiah answered in verse 8, "Here am I, send me." He'd just been undone by God's holiness, just had his mouth burned clean, and now he was volunteering for whatever mission God had in mind. God's response wasn't what Isaiah expected. In verse 9, the Lord told him, "Go and tell this people, hear ye indeed, but understand not, and see ye indeed, but perceive not." Isaiah was being sent to preach to people who would listen but not comprehend, who would look but not see. The message gets harder. God continues in verse 10, "Make the heart of this people fat, and make their ears heavy, and shut their eyes, lest they see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and convert and be healed." Isaiah's preaching would actually make people more resistant to God's message. His ministry would harden hearts instead of softening them. Isaiah asks the obvious question in verse 11, "Lord, how long? How long would this go on? How long would he have to preach to people who wouldn't listen?" God's answer was devastating. "Until the cities be wasted without inhabitant, and the houses without man, and the land be utterly desolate, and the Lord have removed men far away, and there be a great forsaking in the midst of the land. Even if a tenth remains in the land, it will be destroyed again, like a tree cut down, leaving only a stump." But God adds one small note of hope at the end of verse 13. "The holy seed shall be the substance thereof." Something would survive. A remnant would remain. In chapter 5, Isaiah sings a song about his loved one's vineyard. His loved one had a vineyard on a fertile hillside. He dug it up, cleared it of stones, and planted it with the choicest vines. He built a watchtower and cut out a winepress. Then he looked for good grapes, but it yielded only bad fruit. God asks in verse 3, "And now, O inhabitants of Jerusalem and men of Judah, judge, I pray you, betwixt me and my vineyard." What more could he have done? When he looked for good grapes, why did it yield only bad? Now he'll make it a wasteland. In verse 7, Isaiah reveals, "For the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel, and the men of Judah his pleasant plant." And he looked for judgment, but behold oppression, for righteousness, but behold a cry. During the reign of Ahaz, king of Judah, trouble came from the north. In chapter 7, verse 1, Rezin, king of Syria, and Pekah, son of Remaliah, king of Israel, marched up to fight against Jerusalem, but they couldn't overpower it. When the house of David heard that Syria had allied with Israel, the hearts of Ahaz and his people shook like trees swaying in the wind. God sent Isaiah to meet Ahaz at the end of the aqueduct of the upper pool on the road to the launderer's field. Isaiah brought his son Shear-Jashub with him, a name that means a remnant will return. God's message in verse 4 was clear. "Take heed and be quiet. Fear not, neither be faint-hearted for the two tales of these smoking firebrands, for the fierce anger of Rezin with Syria and of the son of Remaliah." These two kings had plotted against Judah, planning to invade and divide it up, setting up the son of Tabeel as a puppet king. But God said in verse 7, "It shall not stand, neither shall it come to pass." Within 65 years, Israel would be shattered as a nation. God warns Ahaz in verse 9, "If ye will not believe, surely ye shall not be established." Isaiah told Ahaz to ask God for a sign, anything from the depths below to the heights above. But Ahaz, pretending to be pious, refused in verse 12. "I will not ask, neither will I tempt the Lord." He didn't want to trust God. He'd already made up his mind to call on Assyria for help instead. Isaiah responded with frustration in verse 13. "Hear ye now, O house of David, is it a small thing for you to weary men, but will ye weary my God also?" Then he gave a sign anyway. In verse 14 he declared, "Therefore the Lord himself shall give you a sign. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel." This child would eat curds and honey by the time he knows enough to reject wrong and choose right. Before the boy reaches that age, the lands of the two kings Ahaz dreads will be laid waste. But the Lord will bring on Ahaz and his people a time unlike any since the kingdom split. He'll bring the king of Assyria. In chapter 8, the Lord told Isaiah to write on a large scroll, Maher Shalal Hashbaz. Then Isaiah went to the prophetess, his wife, and she conceived and gave birth to a son. The Lord said in verse 3, "Call his name Maher-shalal Hashbaz." Before, the boy knows how to say my father or my mother. The wealth of Damascus and the plunder of Samaria will be carried off by the king of Assyria. In chapter 10, verse 5, God reveals his plan. "O Assyrian, the rod of mine anger, and the staff in their hand is mine indignation." Assyria isn't acting on its own. It's a tool in God's hand, sent against a godless nation to seize loot, snatch plunder, and trample people down like mud in the streets. But Assyria doesn't understand this. The Assyrian king thinks he's acting by his own power and wisdom. In verses 8 through 11, he boasts about conquering nations. "Are not my commanders all kings? Has not Calno fared like Carchemish? Is not Hamath like Arpad and Samaria like Damascus? Has my hand seized the kingdoms of the idols, kingdoms whose images excelled those of Jerusalem and Samaria? Shall I not deal with Jerusalem and her images as I dealt with Samaria and her idols?" The king says in verse 13, "By the strength of my hand I have done it, and by my wisdom. For I am prudent, and I have removed the bounds of the people, and have robbed their treasures. And I have put down the inhabitants like a valiant man. Like one reaching into a nest, he's gathered all the countries. As people gather abandoned eggs, he's gathered all the earth." God's response in verse 15 cuts through this arrogance. "Shall the axe boast itself against him that heweth therewith? Or shall the saw magnify itself against him that shaketh it? As if the rod should shake itself against them that lift it up, or as if the staff should lift up itself, as if it were no wood. An axe can't brag about cutting down trees. It's just a tool in the woodsman's hand. Therefore the Lord will send a wasting disease upon the sturdy warriors of Assyria. Under their pomp, a fire will be kindled like a blazing flame. The light of Israel will become a fire, their Holy One a flame. In a single day, it will burn and consume the thorns and briars." Isaiah describes the Assyrian invasion with terrifying detail. In verses 28 through 32, he traces their route. They've come to Ayath, passed through Migron, stored their supplies at Michmash, crossed the pass, camped at Geba. Ramah trembles. Gibeah of Saul has fled. The people of Galim cry out, "Poor Anathoth flees." This very day they'll halt at Nob, shaking their fist at the mount of daughter Zion, at the hill of Jerusalem. But see, the Lord will lop off the boughs with great power. The lofty trees will be felled, and the tall ones will be brought low. He'll cut down the forest thickets with an axe. In chapter 9, Isaiah had prophesied about a coming child in verse 6. "For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and peace there will be no end." In chapter 13, verse 1, Isaiah receives a prophecy about Babylon, the burden of Babylon, which Isaiah the son of Amoz did see. This is strange, because at this time in history, Babylon isn't the major threat, Assyria is. But Isaiah sees beyond the immediate crisis to a future judgment. Isaiah hears a noise in the mountains, like that of a great crowd. He hears an uproar among the kingdoms, like nations massing together. God is mustering an army in verse 4, the noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people. A tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts mustereth the host of the battle. They're coming from faraway lands, from the ends of the heavens, the Lord and the weapons of his wrath, to destroy the whole country. People will wail because the day of the Lord is near, coming as destruction from the Almighty. Because of this, all hands will go limp and every heart will melt with fear. In verse 8, everyone will be terrified, seized with pain and anguish, writhing like a woman in labor. They'll look at each other in fear, their faces aflame with shock. The day of the Lord is coming, cruel with wrath and fierce anger, to make the land desolate and destroy its sinners. In verse 10, the stars of heaven and their constellations won't show their light. The rising sun will be darkened, and the moon won't give its light. God will punish the world for its evil and the wicked for their sins. He'll put an end to the arrogance of the haughty and will humble the pride of the ruthless. He'll make people scarcer than pure gold, more rare than the gold of Ophir. Therefore he'll make the heavens tremble, and the earth will shake from its place at the wrath of the Lord Almighty. Babylon, the jewel of kingdoms and the pride of the Chaldeans, will be overthrown by God like Sodom and Gomorrah. In verse 20, it will never be inhabited or lived in through all generations. No Arab will pitch his tent there, no shepherd will rest his flocks. Desert creatures will lie there, jackals will fill her houses, owls will live there, and wild goats will leap about. Chapter 14 contains a taunt against the king of Babylon. The Lord will have compassion on Jacob and will again choose Israel. When the Lord gives Israel relief from suffering and turmoil, they'll take up this mockery in verse 4. How hath the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. The Lord has broken the rod of the wicked, the scepter of the rulers. The whole earth is at rest and quiet, breaking into singing. Even the cypress trees and cedars of Lebanon rejoice, saying that since the king fell, no woodsman comes to cut them down. The grave below is stirred to meet the king at his coming. It rouses the spirits of the departed to greet him, all who were leaders in the world. They rise from their thrones and say in verse 10, Art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? All his pomp has been brought down to the grave. Maggots are spread beneath him, and worms cover him. In verse 12 the taunt continues, How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? The king said in his heart that he would ascend to heaven and raise his throne above the stars of God. He would make himself like the Most High. But he's brought down to the grave, to the depths of the pit. Those who see him stare at him and ponder his fate in verse 16. Is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms? Is this the man who made the world a wilderness? In verse 28, Isaiah delivers a prophecy about Philistia. In the year that King Ahaz died was this burden. The message warns in verse 29 that the Philistines shouldn't celebrate that the rod striking them is broken, because from the root of that snake will spring up a viper. Chapter 15 opens with the burden against Moab. In verse 1, Isaiah sees that Ar in Moab is ruined, destroyed in a night. Here in Moab is ruined, destroyed in a night. The people go up to their temple to weep. Moab wails over Nebo and Medeba, every head shaved and every beard cut off. In the streets they wear sackcloth, and on the roofs and in the public squares everyone wails, prostrate with weeping. Heshbon and Eleale cry out. Their voice is heard all the way to Jahaz. Therefore the armed men of Moab cry out, and their hearts faint. Isaiah's own heart cries out over Moab in verse 5. My heart shall cry out for Moab. His fugitives shall flee unto Zoar, an heifer of 3 years old. For by the mounting up of Luhith with weeping shall they go it up. For in the way of Horonaim they shall raise up a cry of destruction. The people flee to Zoar like a 3-year-old heifer. They go up the way to Luhith, weeping as they go. On the road to Horonaim they raise a cry of destruction. The waters of Nimrim are dried up. The grass is withered, the vegetation is gone, and nothing green remains. The wealth they've acquired and stored up, they carry away over the valley of the willows. Their outcry echoes along the border of Moab. Chapter 16 continues with instructions for Moab. In verse 1, they're told, "Send ye the lamb to the ruler of the land from Selah to the wilderness, unto the mount of the daughter of Zion. Send lambs as tribute to the ruler of the land, from Selah across the desert to the mount of daughter Zion, like fluttering birds pushed from the nest." So are the women of Moab at the fords of the Arnon. They're asking Judah for shelter, pleading in verse 3, "Take counsel, execute judgment. Make thy shadow as the night in the midst of the noonday. Hide the outcasts. Bewray not him that wandereth. Give us counsel, render a decision. Make your shadow like night at high noon. Hide the fugitives, don't betray the refugees. Let the Moabite fugitives stay with you. Be their shelter from the destroyer. The oppressor will come to an end, and destruction will cease." But then Isaiah acknowledges what everyone knows about Moab in verse 6. "We have heard of the pride of Moab. He is very proud, even of his haughtiness and his pride, and his wrath, but his lies shall not be so. They've heard of Moab's pride, how great is her arrogance, her conceit, her pride, her insolence. But her boasts are empty. Therefore the people of Moab will wail. They'll all wail together. They'll mourn for the raisin cakes of Kir Hareseth. The fields of Heshbon wither, and the vines of Sibmah dry up. The rulers of the nations have trampled down the choicest vines." Isaiah's heart breaks for Moab in verse 9. "Therefore I will bewail with the weeping of Jazer the vine of Sibmah. I will water thee with my tears, O Heshbon and Eleale, for the shouting for thy summer fruits and for thy harvest is fallen. Joy and gladness are taken away from the orchards. No one sings or shouts in the vineyards. No one treads out wine at the presses." Isaiah has put an end to the shouting. His heart laments for Moab like a harp, his inner being for Kir Hareseth. When Moab appears at her high place, she only wears herself out. When she goes to her shrine to pray, it does no good. In verse 13, the Lord says, "This is the word that the Lord hath spoken concerning Moab since that time." But now the Lord gives a specific time frame in verse 14. "But now the Lord hath spoken, saying, within 3 years, as the years of an hireling. And the glory of Moab shall be contemned with all that great multitude, and the remnant shall be very small and feeble. Within 3 years, as precisely as a hired worker counts down to the end of his contract, Moab's splendor and all her many people will be despised. The survivors will be very few and weak." In chapter 17, verse 1, Isaiah receives a prophecy about Damascus. "Behold, Damascus is taken away from being a city, and it shall be a ruinous heap. The capital of Syria, once a thriving city full of commerce and power, will be reduced to nothing but rubble and ruins. The fortified cities of Syria will disappear, and the kingdom will vanish from Damascus. The remnant of Syria will be like the glory of the children of Israel, fading away, diminishing to almost nothing." God declares through Isaiah in verse 3, "The fortress also shall cease from Ephraim, and the kingdom from Damascus, and the remnant of Syria. They shall be as the glory of the children of Israel, saith the Lord of hosts. In that day the glory of Jacob will fade, and the fat of his body will grow lean. It will be like a harvester gathering the standing grain, reaping the grain with his arm. It will be like someone gleaning heads of grain in the valley of Rephaim. Yet some gleanings will remain, like when an olive tree is beaten, 2 or 3 olives left on the topmost branches, 4 or 5 on the fruitful boughs. In that day people will look to their Maker, and their eyes will turn to the Holy One of Israel. They won't look to the altars their hands have made, or to the Asherah poles and incense altars their fingers have fashioned. In that day, their strong cities will be like places abandoned to thickets and undergrowth, and all will be desolation. In verse 10, God explains why this will happen. Because thou hast forgotten the God of thy salvation, and hast not been mindful of the rock of thy strength. Therefore shalt thou plant pleasant plants, and shalt set it with strange slips. They've forgotten God their Saviour, and haven't remembered the rock, their fortress, though they plant carefully and make their seeds flourish, making them blossom on the very morning they plant them. Yet the harvest will be nothing in the day of grief and incurable pain. On the day they try to harvest, they'll find only disease and incurable sorrow. Woe to the many nations that rage. They rage like the raging sea. Woe to the peoples who roar. They roar like the roaring of great waters. Although the peoples roar like the roar of surging waters, when God rebukes them, they flee far away, driven before the wind like chaff on the hills, like tumbleweed before a gale. In the evening, sudden terror comes. Before morning, they're gone. This is the portion of those who loot us, the lot of those who plunder us. Chapter 22 opens with a burden concerning the Valley of Vision. Isaiah asks in verse 1, What aileth thee now, that thou art wholly gone up to the housetops? What troubles you now, that you've all gone up on the roofs? Everyone has climbed to the flat rooftops of their houses. The city is full of commotion, a town full of revelry. Your slain weren't killed by the sword, and they didn't die in battle. All your leaders have fled together, but were captured without using the bow. All who were caught were taken prisoner together, even though they had fled far away. Therefore Isaiah says in verse 4, Look away from me. I will weep bitterly, labor not to comfort me, because of the spoiling of the daughter of my people. Leave me alone. Let me weep bitterly. Don't try to comfort him about the destruction of his people. The daughter of his people has been devastated. The Lord Almighty has a day of tumult, trampling, and terror in the Valley of Vision, a day of battering down walls and crying out to the mountains. Elam takes up the quiver with her charioteers and horses, and Kir uncovers the shield. The choicest valleys are full of chariots, and horsemen are posted at the city gates. The defenses of Judah are stripped away. When this happened, the people looked to the weapons in the palace of the forest. They saw that the walls of the city of David had many breaches, and they stored up water in the lower pool. They counted the buildings in Jerusalem and tore down houses to strengthen the wall. They built a reservoir between the two walls for the water of the old pool. But in verse 11, God points out their fatal mistake. But ye have not looked unto the Maker thereof, neither had respect unto him that fashioned it long ago. They didn't look to the one who made it all, or have respect for the one who planned it long ago. They focused on human solutions, but ignored the divine planner. The Lord Almighty, called them in that day to weep and wail, to tear out their hair and put on sackcloth. But instead, in verse 13, there was joy and revelry, slaughtering of cattle and killing of sheep, eating of meat and drinking of wine. Let us eat and drink, for tomorrow we shall die. Instead of repentance, there was partying. Instead of mourning, there was feasting. The Lord Almighty revealed this to Isaiah's ears in verse 14. Surely this iniquity shall not be purged from you till ye die, saith the Lord God of hosts. This sin will not be atoned for as long as they live. The Lord Almighty has spoken. Then God tells Isaiah to go to Shebna, the steward in charge of the palace. In verse 16, God confronts him. What hast thou here? And whom hast thou here? That thou hast hewed thee out a sepulchre here, as he that heweth him out a sepulchre on high, and that graveth an habitation for himself in a rock? Who gave you permission to cut out a grave for yourself here, hewing your grave on the height, and chiseling your resting place in the rock? God will hurl Shebna away violently. He'll roll him up tightly like a ball and throw him into a large country. There he'll die, and there his splendid chariots will become a disgrace to his master's house. God will depose him from his office and pull him down from his position. Chapter 23 contains the prophecy about Tyre, the great commercial city on the Mediterranean coast. In verse 1, Isaiah cries out, Howl, ye ships of Tarshish, For it is laid waste, so that there is no house, no entering in. From the land of Chittim it is revealed to them. The ships of Tarshish should wail because Tyre is destroyed and left without house or harbor. Word has come from the land of Cyprus. Be silent, you people of the island, and you merchants of Sidon, whom the seafarers have enriched. On the great waters came the grain of the Shihor. The harvest of the Nile was the revenue of Tyre, and she became the marketplace of the nations. Tyre grew rich by trading the grain of Egypt. Be ashamed, Sidon, and you fortress of the sea, for the sea has spoken. In verse 4 the sea declares, I travail not, nor bring forth children, neither do I nourish up young men, nor bring up virgins. The sea says it has neither been in labor nor given birth. It has neither reared sons nor brought up daughters. When word comes to Egypt, they'll be in anguish at the report from Tyre. Cross over to Tarshish and wail, you people of the island. Is this your city of revelry, the old, old city, whose feet have taken her to settle in far-off lands? Tyre used to send out settlers and establish colonies across the Mediterranean. Who planned this against Tyre, the bestower of crowns, whose merchants are princes, whose traders are renowned in the earth? Who could bring down such a powerful commercial empire? The answer comes in verse 9. The Lord of hosts hath purposed it, to stain the pride of all glory, and to bring into contempt all the honorable of the earth. The Lord Almighty planned it to bring low the pride of all glory, and to humble all who are renowned on the earth. The Lord has stretched out his hand over the sea and made its kingdoms tremble. He has given an order concerning Phoenicia, that her fortresses be destroyed. In verse 12 he says, Thou shalt no more rejoice, O thou oppressed virgin, daughter of Zidon. Arise, pass over to Chittim. There also shalt thou have no rest. Up, cross over to Cyprus. Even there you'll find no rest. Look at the land of the Babylonians, this people that is now of no account. The Assyrians have made it a place for desert creatures. They raised up their siege towers. They stripped its fortresses bare and turned it into a ruin. Therefore the ships of Tarshish should wail, for their fortress is destroyed. At that time, Tyre will be forgotten for 70 years, the span of a king's life. But at the end of these 70 years, it will happen to Tyre as in the song of the prostitute. Take up a harp, walk through the city, you forgotten prostitute. Play the harp well, sing many a song, so that you'll be remembered. At the end of 70 years, the Lord will deal with Tyre. She'll return to her lucrative prostitution and will ply her trade with all the kingdoms on the face of the earth. Yet in verse 18, something remarkable will happen with her profits. Her merchandise and her hire shall be holiness to the Lord. It shall not be treasured nor laid up. For her merchandise shall be for them that dwell before the Lord, to eat sufficiently, and for durable clothing. Her profit and earnings will be set apart for the Lord. They won't be stored up or hoarded, but will go to those who live before the Lord, for abundant food and fine clothes. Chapter 24 begins with a terrifying vision of global judgment that extends far beyond any single nation. In verse 1, Isaiah declares, Behold, the Lord maketh the earth empty, and maketh it waste, and turneth it upside down, and scattereth abroad the inhabitants thereof. The Lord is going to lay waste the earth and devastate it. He'll ruin its face and scatter its inhabitants everywhere. It will be the same for everyone, for priest as for people, for the master as for his servant, for the mistress as for her servant, for seller as for buyer, for borrower as for lender, for debtor as for creditor. No one will escape this judgment based on their social position or economic status. The earth will be completely laid waste and totally plundered. The Lord has spoken this word. The earth dries up and withers. The world languishes and withers. The heavens languish with the earth. In verse 5, God explains the reason for this universal devastation. The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. The earth is defiled by its people. They've disobeyed the laws, violated the statutes, and broken the everlasting covenant. Therefore a curse consumes the earth, and its people must bear their guilt. Therefore earth's inhabitants are burned up, and very few are left. The new wine dries up, and the vine withers. All the merrymakers groan. The gaiety of the timbrels is stilled. The noise of the revelers has stopped, and the joyful harp is silent. All celebration comes to an end. No longer do they drink wine with a song. The beer is bitter to its drinkers. The ruined city lies desolate. The entrance to every house is barred. In the streets they cry out for wine. All joy turns to gloom, and all joyful sounds are banished from the earth. The city is left in ruins. Its gate is battered to pieces. So will it be on the earth and among the nations, like the beating of an olive tree, like the gleaning of grapes when the grape harvest is over. Only a small remnant will remain. They raise their voices and shout for joy. From the west they acclaim the Lord's majesty. Therefore in the east give glory to the Lord. In the islands of the sea glorify the name of the Lord, the God of Israel. From the ends of the earth, Isaiah hears singing, "Glory to the righteous one." But then he says in verse 16, my leanness, woe unto me. The treacherous dealers have dealt treacherously. Yet the treacherous dealers have dealt very treacherously. He wastes away with despair. The treacherous betray with treachery. Terror and pit and snare await you, people of the earth. In verse 18, God warns, and it shall come to pass, that he who fleeth from the noise of the fear shall fall into the pit. And he that cometh up out of the midst of the pit shall be taken in the snare. For the windows from on high are open, and the foundations of the earth do shake. Whoever flees at the sound of terror will fall into a pit. Whoever climbs out of the pit will be caught in a snare. The floodgates of the heavens are opened, and the foundations of the earth shake. The earth is broken up, the earth is split asunder, the earth is violently shaken. The earth reels like a drunkard, it sways like a hut in the wind. So heavy upon it is the guilt of its rebellion that it falls, never to rise again. In that day the Lord will punish the powers in the heavens above and the kings on the earth below. They'll be herded together like prisoners bound in a dungeon. They'll be shut up in prison and be punished after many days. The moon will be dismayed and the sun ashamed, for the Lord Almighty will reign on Mount Zion and in Jerusalem and before its elders with great glory. In chapter 25, the tone shifts dramatically from judgment to praise. Isaiah begins in verse 1. O Lord, thou art my God. I will exalt thee, I will praise thy name, for thou hast done wonderful things. Thy counsels of old are faithfulness and truth. You are my God. I'll exalt you and praise your name. For you've done marvelous things, things planned long ago. In perfect faithfulness and truth, you have made the city a heap of rubble, the fortified town a ruin, the foreigner's stronghold, a city no more. It will never be rebuilt. Therefore strong peoples will honor you. Cities of ruthless nations will revere you. Even the violent nations will fear God's name. You have been a refuge for the poor, a refuge for the needy in their distress, a shelter from the storm and a shade from the heat. For the breath of the ruthless is like a storm driving against a wall and like the heat of the desert. You silence the uproar of foreigners and the song of the ruthless. On this mountain, the Lord Almighty will prepare a feast of rich food for all peoples, a banquet of aged wine, the best of meats and the finest of wines. In verse 7, he promises something even greater, and he will destroy in this mountain the face of the covering cast over all people, and the veil that is spread over all nations. On this mountain, he'll destroy the shroud that enfolds all peoples, the sheet that covers all nations. He will swallow up death forever. The sovereign Lord will wipe away the tears from all faces and remove his people's disgrace from all the earth. The Lord has spoken. In that day they will say in verse 9, Lo, this is our God. We have waited for him, and he will save us. This is the Lord. We have waited for him. We will be glad and rejoice in his salvation. The hand of the Lord will rest on this mountain, but Moab will be trampled in their land, as straw is trampled down in the manure. They'll stretch out their hands in it, as swimmers stretch out their hands to swim. But God will bring down their pride despite the cleverness of their hands. Chapter 26 continues with a song that will be sung in the land of Judah in that day. In verse 1, they'll sing, "We have a strong city." God will appoint salvation for walls and bulwarks. We have a strong city. God makes salvation its walls and ramparts. Open the gates that the righteous nation may enter, the nation that keeps faith. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you. In verse 3, thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusteth in thee. Trust in the Lord forever, for the Lord himself, is the rock eternal. He humbles those who dwell on high. He lays the lofty city low. He levels it to the ground and casts it down to the dust. Feet trample it down, the feet of the oppressed, the footsteps of the poor. The path of the righteous is level. You, the upright one, make the way of the righteous smooth. Yes, Lord, walking in the way of your laws, we wait for you. Your name and renown are the desire of our hearts. My soul yearns for you in the night, in the morning, my spirit longs for you. When your judgments come upon the earth, the people of the world learn righteousness. Lord, you establish peace for us. All that we've accomplished, you've done for us. Lord our God, other lords besides you have ruled over us, but your name alone do we honor. In verse 19, Isaiah declares a powerful promise. Thy dead men shall live, together with my dead body shall they arise. Awake and sing, ye that dwell in dust, for thy dew is as the dew of herbs, and the earth shall cast out the dead. Your dead will live, their bodies will rise. Let those who dwell in the dust wake up and shout for joy. Chapter 28 opens with a woe to Ephraim, the northern kingdom. In verse 1, Isaiah cries, "Woe to the crown of pride, to the drunkards of Ephraim, whose glorious beauty is a fading flower, which are on the head of the fat valleys of them that are overcome with wine." Woe to that wreath, the pride of Ephraim's drunkards. To the fading flower, his glorious beauty, set on the head of a fertile valley. To that city, the pride of those laid low by wine. See, the Lord has one who is powerful and strong. Like a hailstorm and a destructive wind, like a driving rain and a flooding downpour, he will throw it forcefully to the ground. That wreath, the pride of Ephraim's drunkards, will be trampled underfoot. That fading flower, his glorious beauty, set on the head of a fertile valley, will be like figs ripe before harvest. As soon as people see them and take them in hand, they swallow them. In that day, the Lord Almighty will be a glorious crown, a beautiful wreath for the remnant of his people. He'll be a spirit of justice to the one who sits in judgment, a source of strength to those who turn back the battle at the gate. But even these stagger from wine and reel from beer. Priests and prophets stagger from beer and are befuddled with wine. They reel from beer, they stagger when seeing visions, they stumble when rendering decisions. All the tables are covered with vomit, and there's not a spot without filth. The people mock Isaiah, asking in verse 9, "Whom shall he teach knowledge? And whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breasts." Who is he trying to teach? Who is he explaining his message to? To children weaned from their milk, to those just taken from the breast. For it is in verse 10, precept upon precept, precept upon precept. Line upon line, line upon line. Here a little and there a little. Do this, do that, a rule for this, a rule for that, a little here, a little there. They're mocking Isaiah's simple, repetitive teaching style. Very well then, God will speak to this people with foreign lips and strange tongues. He told them that this is the resting place. Let the weary rest, and this is the place of repose. But they wouldn't listen. So then, the word of the Lord to them will become rule upon rule, a little here, a little there, so that as they go, they'll fall backward, be injured, snared, and captured. In chapter 30, God pronounces woe on the obstinate children. In verse 1, he declares, "Woe to the rebellious children, saith the Lord, that take counsel, but not of me, and that cover with a covering, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin. Woe to the obstinate children who carry out plans that are not mine, forming an alliance without my spirit, heaping sin upon sin. They go down to Egypt without consulting me. They look for help to Pharaoh's protection. They take refuge in Egypt's shade. But Pharaoh's protection will be to your shame. Egypt's shade will bring you disgrace. Though they have officials in Zoan and their envoys reach Hanes, everyone will be put to shame because of a people useless to them, who bring neither help nor advantage, but only shame and disgrace, a prophecy concerning the animals of the Negev, through a land of hardship and distress, of lions and lionesses, of adders and darting snakes. The envoys carry their riches on donkeys' backs, their treasures on the humps of camels, to that unprofitable nation, to Egypt, whose help is utterly useless. This is a rebellious people, deceitful children, children unwilling to listen to the Lord's instruction. They say to the seers in verse 10, "See not," and to the prophets, "Prophesy not unto us right things, speak unto us smooth things, prophesy deceits." Stop confronting us with visions. Give us no more visions of what is right. Tell us pleasant things, prophecy illusions. Leave this way, get off this path, and stop confronting us with the Holy One of Israel. Therefore, this is what the Holy One of Israel says in verse 13. Therefore, this iniquity shall be to you as a breach ready to fall, swelling out in a high wall, whose breaking cometh suddenly at an instant. Because you have rejected this message, relied on oppression, and depended on deceit, this sin will become for you like a high wall, cracked and bulging, that collapses suddenly in an instant. Yet the Lord longs to be gracious to you. He rises to show you compassion. For the Lord is a God of justice. Blessed are all who wait for him. In verse 18, and therefore will the Lord wait, that he may be gracious unto you, and therefore will he be exalted, that he may have mercy upon you. For the Lord is a God of judgment. Blessed are all they that wait for him. People of Zion, who live in Jerusalem, you'll weep no more. In chapter 32, Isaiah sees a vision of a coming righteous king. In verse 1, he declares, "Behold, a king shall reign in righteousness, and princes shall rule in judgment." See, a king will reign in righteousness, and rulers will rule with justice. This is a dramatic contrast to the corrupt leadership Isaiah has been denouncing. Each one will be like a shelter from the wind and a refuge from the storm, like streams of water in the desert and the shadow of a great rock in a thirsty land. Then the eyes of those who see will no longer be closed, and the ears of those who hear will listen. The fearful heart will know and understand, and the stammering tongue will be fluent and clear. No longer will the fool be called noble, nor the scoundrel be highly respected. For fools speak folly, their hearts are bent on evil. They practice ungodliness and spread error concerning the Lord. The hungry they leave empty, and from the thirsty they withhold water. The scoundrel's methods are wicked. He makes up evil schemes to destroy the poor with lies, even when the plea of the needy is just. But the noble make noble plans, and by noble deeds they stand. Isaiah addresses the women who are complacent in verse 9. Rise up, ye women that are at ease. Hear my voice, ye careless daughters. Give ear unto my speech. You women who are so complacent, rise up and listen to me. You daughters who feel secure, hear what I have to say. In little more than a year, you who feel secure will tremble. The grape harvest will fail, and the harvest of fruit will not come. Tremble, you complacent women. Shudder, you daughters who feel secure. Strip off your fine clothes and wrap yourselves in rags. Beat your breasts for the pleasant fields, for the fruitful vines, and for the land of my people, a land overgrown with thorns and briars. Yes, mourn for all houses of merriment and for this city of revelry. The fortress will be abandoned, the noisy city deserted. Citadel and watchtower will become a wasteland forever, the delight of donkeys, a pasture for flocks, till the Spirit is poured on us from on high. But then comes hope. In verse 15, Isaiah promises, until the Spirit be poured upon us from on high, and the wilderness be a fruitful field, and the fruitful field be counted for a forest. till the Spirit is poured on us from on high, and the desert becomes a fertile field, and the fertile field seems like a forest. The Lord's justice will dwell in the desert. His righteousness live in the fertile field. The fruit of that righteousness will be peace. Its effect will be quietness and confidence forever. My people will live in peaceful dwelling places, in secure homes, in undisturbed places of rest. Chapter 33 opens with a woe to the destroyer who has not yet been destroyed. In verse 1, Isaiah cries out, "Woe to thee that spoilest, and thou wast not spoiled, and dealest treacherously, and they dealt not treacherously with thee. When thou shalt cease to spoil, thou shalt be spoiled. And when thou shalt make an end to deal treacherously, they shall deal treacherously with thee. When you stop destroying, you will be destroyed. When you stop betraying, you will be betrayed. Lord, be gracious to us. We long for you. Be our strength every morning, our salvation in time of distress. At the uproar of your army, the peoples flee. When you rise up, the nations scatter. Your plunder, O nations, is harvested as by young locusts. Like a swarm of locusts, people pounce on it. The Lord is exalted, for he dwells on high. He will fill Zion with his justice and righteousness. He will be the sure foundation for your times, a rich store of salvation and wisdom and knowledge. The fear of the Lord is the key to this treasure. Look, their brave men cry aloud in the streets. The envoys of peace weep bitterly. The highways are deserted. No travelers are on the roads. The treaty is broken. Its witnesses are despised, and no one is respected. The land dries up and wastes away. Lebanon is ashamed and withers. Sharon is like the Arabah, and Bashan and Carmel drop their leaves. Now the Lord says in verse 10, "Now will I rise, saith the Lord. Now will I be exalted. Now will I lift up myself. Now I will arise. Now I will be exalted. Now I will be lifted up. You conceive chaff, you give birth to straw. Your breath is a fire that consumes you. The peoples will be burned to lime. Like cut thorn bushes, they'll be set ablaze. You who are far away, hear what I have done. You who are near, acknowledge my power. The sinners in Zion are terrified. Trembling grips the godless. They ask in verse 14, "Who among us shall dwell with the devouring fire? Who among us shall dwell with everlasting burnings?" Who can dwell with consuming fire? Who can dwell with everlasting burning? Those who walk righteously and speak what is right, who reject gain from extortion and keep their hands from accepting bribes, who stop their ears against plots of murder and shut their eyes against contemplating evil. They are the ones who will dwell on the heights. Their refuge will be the mountain fortress. Their bread will be supplied, and water will not fail them. Your eyes will see the King in his beauty, and view a land that stretches afar. In verse 17, "Thine eyes shall see the King in his beauty. They shall behold the land that is very far off." You will see a king in his splendor, and view a land that stretches into the distance. Look on Zion, the city of our festivals. Your eyes will see Jerusalem, a peaceful home, a tent that won't be moved. Its stakes will never be pulled up, nor any of its ropes broken. There the Lord will be our mighty one. It will be like a place of broad rivers and streams. No galley with oars will ride them, no mighty ship will sail them. For the Lord is our judge, the Lord is our lawgiver, the Lord is our king. It is he who will save us. Chapter 34 opens with a call for all nations to listen. In verse 1, Isaiah cries out, "Come near, ye nations, to hear. And hearken, ye people, let the earth hear, and all that is therein. The world, and all things that come forth of it. Come near and listen, all you nations. Let the earth hear, and everything in it, the world and all that comes out of it. The Lord is angry with all nations. His wrath is on all their armies. He will totally destroy them and give them over to slaughter. Their slain will be thrown out. Their dead bodies will stink, and the mountains will be soaked with their blood. All the stars in the sky will be dissolved, and the heavens rolled up like a scroll. All the starry host will fall like withered leaves from the vine, like shriveled figs from the fig tree. God's sword has drunk its fill in the heavens. See, it descends in judgment on Edom. the people he has totally destroyed. In verse 6, the description becomes vivid. The sword of the Lord is filled with blood. It is made fat with fatness, and with the blood of lambs and goats, with the fat of the kidneys of rams. For the Lord hath a sacrifice in Bozrah, and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea. The Lord has a sacrifice in Bozrah, and a great slaughter in the land of Edom. Wild oxen will fall with them, the bull calves and the great bulls. Their land will be drenched with blood, and the dust will be soaked with fat. For the Lord has a day of vengeance, a year of retribution to uphold Zion's cause. Edom's streams will be turned into pitch, her dust into burning sulfur. Her land will become blazing pitch. It won't be quenched night or day. Its smoke will rise forever. From generation to generation, it will lie desolate. No one will ever pass through it again. The desert owl and screech owl will possess it. The great owl and the raven will nest there. God will stretch out over Edom the measuring line of chaos and the plumb line of desolation. Her nobles will have nothing there to be called a kingdom, and all her princes will vanish away. Thorns will overrun her citadels, nettles and brambles her strongholds. She'll become a haunt for jackals, a home for owls. Desert creatures will meet with hyenas, and wild goats will bleat to each other. There the night creatures will rest and find for themselves places of repose. The owl will nest there and lay eggs. She'll hatch them and care for her young under the shadow of her wings. There also the falcons will gather, each with its mate. Chapter 35 presents a stunning contrast to the judgment just described. The wilderness and the dry land will be glad. The desert will rejoice and blossom. Like the crocus, it will burst into bloom and rejoice greatly. It will be given the glory of Lebanon, the splendor of Carmel and Sharon. They'll see the glory of the Lord, the splendor of our God. Isaiah calls out in verse 3 to strengthen the weak hands and make firm the feeble knees. Say to those with fearful hearts, be strong, fear not. Behold, your God will come with vengeance, even God with a recompense. He will come and save you. Be strong and don't fear. Your God will come with vengeance. With divine retribution, he'll come to save you. Then the eyes of the blind will be opened, and the ears of the deaf unstopped. Then the lame will leap like a deer, and the mute tongue will shout for joy. Water will gush forth in the wilderness and streams in the desert. The burning sand will become a pool, the thirsty ground bubbling springs. In the haunts where jackals once lay, grass and reeds and papyrus will grow. A highway will be there, and it will be called the way of holiness. It will be for those who walk on that way. The unclean won't journey on it, wicked fools won't go about on it. No lion will be there, nor any ravenous beast will get up on it. They won't be found there, but only the redeemed will walk there. In verse 10, Isaiah describes their return. And the ransomed of the Lord shall return, and come to Zion with songs and everlasting joy upon their heads. They shall obtain joy and gladness, and sorrow and sighing shall flee away. Those the Lord has rescued will return. They'll enter Zion with singing. Everlasting joy will crown their heads. Gladness and joy will overtake them, and sorrow and sighing will flee away. Chapter 36 begins the historical section of Isaiah. In verse 1, the narrative opens. Now it came to pass in the 14th year of King Hezekiah that Sennacherib king of Assyria came up against all the defenced cities of Judah and took them. In the 14th year of King Hezekiah's reign, Sennacherib king of Assyria attacked all the fortified cities of Judah and captured them. The king of Assyria sent his field commander with a large army from Lachish to King Hezekiah at Jerusalem. When the commander stopped at the aqueduct of the upper pool, on the road to the launderer's field, Eliakim son of Hilkiah the palace administrator, Shebna the secretary, and Joah son of Asaph the recorder went out to him. The field commander said to them in verse 4, Say ye now to Hezekiah, Thus saith the great king, the king of Assyria, What confidence is this wherein thou trustest? Tell Hezekiah that the great king, the king of Assyria, asks, On what are you basing this confidence of yours? You say you have counsel and might for war, but you speak only empty words. On whom are you depending that you rebel against me? Look, you're depending on Egypt, that splintered reed of a staff, which pierces the hand of anyone who leans on it. Such is Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to all who depend on him. But if you say to me that you're depending on the Lord your God, isn't he the one whose high places and altars Hezekiah removed, saying to Judah and Jerusalem that you must worship before this altar? Come now, make a bargain with my master, the king of Assyria. I'll give you 2,000 horses, if you can put riders on them. How then can you repulse one officer of the least of my master's officials, even though you're depending on Egypt for chariots and horsemen? Furthermore, have I come to attack and destroy this land without the Lord? The Lord himself told me to march against this country and destroy it. Then Eliakim, Shebna, and Joah said to the field commander in verse 11, Speak, I pray thee, unto thy servants in the Syrian language. For we understand it, and speak not to us in the Jews' language, in the ears of the people that are on the wall. Please speak to your servants in Aramaic, since we understand it. Don't speak to us in Hebrew in the hearing of the people on the wall. But the commander replied that his master sent him to say these things to the people sitting on the wall, who, like them, will have to eat their own excrement and drink their own urine. Then the commander stood and called out in Hebrew loudly, Hear ye the words of the great king, the king of Assyria. He continued, Don't let Hezekiah deceive you. He can't deliver you. Don't let Hezekiah persuade you to trust in the Lord by saying the Lord will surely deliver us, and this city won't be given into the hand of the king of Assyria. Don't listen to Hezekiah. The king of Assyria says, Make peace with me and come out to me. Then each of you will eat fruit from your own vine and fig tree and drink water from your own cistern, until I come and take you to a land like your own. Has the God of any nation ever delivered his land from the hand of the king of Assyria? Where are the gods of Hamath and Arpad? Where are the gods of Sepharvaim? Have they rescued Samaria from my hand? Who of all the gods of these countries has been able to save his land from me? How then can the Lord deliver Jerusalem from my hand? But the people remained silent and said nothing in reply, because the king had commanded them not to answer him. Then Eliakim, Shebna, and Joah returned to Hezekiah with their clothes torn, and told him what the field commander had said. When King Hezekiah heard this, in chapter 37, he tore his clothes, put on sackcloth, and went into the temple of the Lord. He sent Eliakim the palace administrator, Shebna the secretary, and the leading priests, all wearing sackcloth, to the prophet Isaiah son of Amoz. They told Isaiah in verse 3, Thus saith Hezekiah, This day is a day of trouble and of rebuke, and of blasphemy, for the children are come to the birth, and there is not strength to bring forth. This is a day of distress and rebuke and disgrace, as when children come to the moment of birth, and there's no strength to deliver them. Perhaps the Lord your God will hear the words of the field commander, whom his master, the king of Assyria, has sent to ridicule the living God, and will rebuke him for the words the Lord your God has heard. Therefore pray for the remnant that still survives. When Hezekiah's officials came to Isaiah, Isaiah said to them, Tell your master that the Lord says not to be afraid of what you've heard, those words with which the underlings of the king of Assyria have blasphemed me. Listen, when he hears a certain report, I'll make him want to return to his own country, and there I'll have him cut down with the sword. When the field commander heard that the king of Assyria had left Lachish, he withdrew and found the king fighting against Libnah. Now Sennacherib received a report that Tirhakah, the king of Cush, was marching out to fight against him. When he heard it, he sent messengers to Hezekiah with this word, Don't let the God you depend on deceive you when he says Jerusalem won't be given into the hands of the king of Assyria. Surely you've heard what the kings of Assyria have done to all the countries, destroying them completely. And will you be delivered? Did the gods of the nations that were destroyed by my predecessors deliver them? Hezekiah received the letter from the messengers and read it. Then he went up to the temple of the Lord and spread it out before the Lord. And Hezekiah prayed to the Lord in verse 16, O Lord of hosts, God of Israel, that dwellest between the cherubims. Thou art the God, even thou alone. Of all the kingdoms of the earth, thou hast made heaven and earth. Give ear, Lord, and hear. Open your eyes, Lord, and see. Listen to all the words Sennacherib has sent to ridicule the living God. It's true, Lord, that the Assyrian kings have laid waste all these peoples and their lands. They've thrown their gods into the fire and destroyed them. For they weren't gods, but only wood and stone, fashioned by human hands. Now, Lord our God, deliver us from his hand, so that all the kingdoms of the earth may know that you, Lord, are the only God. Then Isaiah sent a message to Hezekiah. The Lord, the God of Israel, says that because you've prayed to me concerning Sennacherib, king of Assyria, this is the word the Lord has spoken against him. Virgin daughter Zion despises you and mocks you. Daughter Jerusalem tosses her head as you flee. The Lord declares in verse 29, because thy rage against me and thy tumult is come up into mine ears, therefore will I put my hook in thy nose and my bridle in thy lips, and I will turn thee back by the way by which thou camest, because you rage against me, and because your insolence has reached my ears. I'll put my hook in your nose and my bit in your mouth, and I'll make you return by the way you came. That night the angel of the Lord went out and put to death 185,000 in the Assyrian camp. When the people got up the next morning, there were all the dead bodies. So Sennacherib, king of Assyria, broke camp and withdrew. He returned to Nineveh and stayed there. One day, while he was worshipping in the temple of his god Nisroch, his sons Adramelech and Sharezer killed him with the sword, and they escaped to the land of Ararat. And Esarhaddon, his son, succeeded him as king. In chapter 38, verse 1, the narrative continues, In those days was Hezekiah sick unto death. And Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amoz, came unto him, and said unto him, Thus saith the Lord, Set thine house in order, for thou shalt die, and not live. In those days Hezekiah became ill, and was at the point of death. The prophet Isaiah went to him and said that the Lord tells him to put his house in order, because he's going to die and won't recover. Hezekiah turned his face to the wall and prayed to the Lord. He said in verse 3, Remember now, O Lord, I beseech thee, how I have walked before thee in truth and with a perfect heart, and have done that which is good in thy sight. Remember, Lord, how he's walked before God faithfully and with wholehearted devotion, and has done what is good in his eyes. And Hezekiah wept bitterly. Then the word of the Lord came to Isaiah, Go and tell Hezekiah that the Lord, the God of his father David, says he's heard his prayer and seen his tears. He'll add 15 years to his life, and he'll deliver him and this city from the hand of the king of Assyria. He'll defend this city. This is the Lord's sign to Hezekiah that the Lord will do what he has promised. He'll make the shadow cast by the sun go back the 10 steps it has gone down on the stairway of Ahaz. So the sunlight went back the 10 steps it had gone down. After Hezekiah recovered, he wrote about his experience. In verse 10 he says, I said in the cutting off of my days, I shall go to the gates of the grave. I'm deprived of the residue of my years, he thought. In the prime of his life, he must go through the gates of death and be robbed of the rest of his years. He thought he wouldn't see the Lord himself in the land of the living. He wouldn't look on humanity anymore with those who now dwell in this world. Like a shepherd's tent, his dwelling has been pulled down and taken from him. Like a weaver, he's rolled up his life, and he's been cut off from the loom. Hezekiah cried like a swift or thrush. He moaned like a mourning dove. His eyes grew weak as he looked to the heavens. He was being threatened, but the Lord came to his help. What can he say? The Lord has spoken to him, and he himself has done this. He'll walk humbly all his years because of this anguish of his soul. Lord, by such things people live, and his spirit finds life in them too. The Lord restored him to health and let him live. Surely it was for his benefit that he suffered such anguish. In his love, God kept him from the pit of destruction and put all his sins behind his back. Chapter 39 tells what happened after Hezekiah's recovery. At that time, Marduk-Baladan, son of Baladan, king of Babylon, sent Hezekiah letters and a gift, because he'd heard of his illness and recovery. Hezekiah received the envoys gladly and showed them what was in his storehouses, the silver, the gold, the spices, the fine olive oil, his entire armory, and everything found among his treasures. There was nothing in his palace or in all his kingdom that Hezekiah didn't show them. Then Isaiah the prophet went to King Hezekiah and asked what those men said and where they came from. Hezekiah replied that they came from a distant land, from Babylon. Isaiah asked what they saw in his palace. Hezekiah answered in verse 4, "All that is in mine house have they seen. There is nothing among my treasures that I have not showed them." Everything. There's nothing among his treasures that he didn't show them. Then Isaiah said to Hezekiah in verse 6, "Behold, the days come, that all that is in thine house, and that which thy fathers have laid up in store until this day, shall be carried to Babylon. Nothing shall be left, saith the Lord. The time will surely come when everything in your palace and all that your predecessors have stored up until this day will be carried off to Babylon. Nothing will be left, and some of your descendants, your own flesh and blood, who will be born to you, will be taken away, and they'll become eunuchs in the palace of the king of Babylon." Hezekiah replied that the word of the Lord Isaiah had spoken is good, for he thought there would be peace and security in his lifetime. Chapter 40 marks a dramatic shift in tone and message. In verse 1, God speaks, comfort ye, my people, saith your God. Comfort, comfort my people. Speak tenderly to Jerusalem, and proclaim to her that her hard service has been completed, that her sin has been paid for, that she's received from the Lord's hand double for all her sins. A voice cries out in verse 3, the voice of him that crieth in the wilderness, prepare ye the way of the Lord, make straight in the desert a highway for our God. A voice of one calling in the wilderness to prepare the way for the Lord, to make straight in the desert a highway for our God. Every valley shall be raised up, every mountain and hill made low. The rough ground shall become level, the rugged places a plain. And the glory of the Lord will be revealed, and all people will see it together. For the mouth of the Lord has spoken, a voice says to cry out. And Isaiah asks what he should cry. In verse 6, the answer comes, all flesh is grass, and all the goodliness thereof is as the flower of the field. All people are like grass, and all their faithfulness is like the flowers of the field. The grass withers, and the flowers fall, because the breath of the Lord blows on them. Surely the people are grass. The grass withers, and the flowers fall, but the word of our God endures forever. You who bring good news to Zion, go up on a high mountain. You who bring good news to Jerusalem, lift up your voice with a shout, lift it up and don't be afraid. Say to the towns of Judah, behold your God. See, the sovereign Lord comes with power, and he rules with a mighty arm. See, his reward is with him, and his recompense accompanies him. He tends his flock like a shepherd. He gathers the lambs in his arms and carries them close to his heart. He gently leads those that have young, who has measured the waters in the hollow of his hand, or with the breadth of his hand marked off the heavens. Who has held the dust of the earth in a basket, or weighed the mountains on the scales, and the hills in a balance? Who can fathom the Spirit of the Lord, or instruct the Lord as his counselor? Surely the nations are like a drop in a bucket. They're regarded as dust on the scales. He weighs the islands as though they were fine dust. Lebanon isn't sufficient for altar fires, nor its animals enough for burnt offerings. Before him all the nations are as nothing. They're regarded by him as worthless and less than nothing. Continuing in chapter 40, verse 18, Isaiah asks, to whom then will ye liken God? Or what likeness will ye compare unto him? With whom will you compare God? To what image will you liken him? As for an idol, a metalworker casts it, and a goldsmith overlays it with gold and fashions silver chains for it. A person too poor to present such an offering selects wood that won't rot. They look for a skilled worker to set up an idol that won't topple. Do you not know? Have you not heard? Has it not been told you from the beginning? Have you not understood since the earth was founded? He sits enthroned above the circle of the earth, and its people are like grasshoppers. He stretches out the heavens like a canopy and spreads them out like a tent to live in. He brings princes to nothing and reduces the rulers of this world to nothing. No sooner are they planted, no sooner are they sown, no sooner do they take root in the ground than he blows on them, and they wither, and a whirlwind sweeps them away like chaff. In verse 25, God asks, "To whom then will ye liken me, or shall I be equal? Saith the Holy One, to whom will you compare me? Or who is my equal? Lift up your eyes and look to the heavens. Who created all these? He who brings out the starry host one by one and calls forth each of them by name. Because of his great power and mighty strength, not one of them is missing. Why do you complain, Jacob? Why do you say, Israel, that your way is hidden from the Lord and your cause is disregarded by your God? Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He won't grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They'll soar on wings like eagles. They'll run and not grow weary. They'll walk and not be faint. Chapter 41 continues this theme. In verse 10, God declares, "Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will strengthen thee. Yea, I will help thee. Yea, I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness. So don't fear, for he's with you. Don't be dismayed, for he's your God. He'll strengthen you and help you. He'll uphold you with his righteous right hand." In chapter 42, verse 1, God introduces his servant. "Behold my servant, whom I uphold, mine elect in whom my soul delighteth. I have put my spirit upon him. He shall bring forth judgment to the Gentiles. Here is my servant whom I uphold, my chosen one in whom I delight. I'll put my spirit on him, and he'll bring justice to the nations. He won't shout or cry out or raise his voice in the streets. A bruised reed he won't break, and a smoldering wick he won't snuff out. And in faithfulness he'll bring forth justice. He won't falter or be discouraged till he establishes justice on earth. In his teaching, the islands will put their hope. This is what God the Lord says, the creator of the heavens, who stretches them out, who spreads out the earth with all that springs from it, who gives breath to its people and life to those who walk on it. He has called his servant in righteousness and will take hold of his hand. He'll keep him and will make him to be a covenant for the people and a light for the Gentiles, to open eyes that are blind, to free captives from prison, and to release from the dungeon those who sit in darkness. God declares in verse 8, "I am the Lord, that is my name, and my glory will I not give to another, neither my praise to graven images." He's the Lord, that's his name. He won't yield his glory to another or his praise to idols. See, the former things have taken place, and new things he declares. Before they spring into being, he announces them to you. Sing to the Lord a new song, his praise from the ends of the earth. You who go down to the sea and all that is in it, you islands, and all who live in them. In chapter 49, God's servant speaks in verse 1, "Listen, O isles, unto me, and hearken, ye people from far. The Lord hath called me from the womb. From the bowels of my mother hath he made mention of my name. Listen to me, you islands. Hear this, you distant nations. Before he was born, the Lord called him. From his mother's womb he has spoken his name. He made his mouth like a sharpened sword. In the shadow of his hand he hid him. He made him into a polished arrow and concealed him in his quiver. He said to him, You are my servant, Israel, in whom I'll display my splendor. But the servant said he'd labored in vain and spent his strength for nothing at all. Yet what was due him was in the Lord's hand, and his reward was with his God. And now the Lord says, He who formed him in the womb to be his servant, to bring Jacob back to him and gather Israel to himself. For he's honored in the eyes of the Lord, and his God has been his strength. He says in verse 6, "It is a light thing that thou shouldest be my servant, to raise up the tribes of Jacob, and to restore the preserved of Israel. I will also give thee for a light to the Gentiles, that thou mayest be my salvation unto the end of the earth." It's too small a thing for you to be my servant, to restore the tribes of Jacob and bring back those of Israel I've kept. I'll also make you a light for the Gentiles, that my salvation may reach to the ends of the earth. Chapter 50 opens with God asking a question. In verse 1, he says, "Thus saith the Lord, where is the bill of your mother's divorcement, whom I have put away? Or which of my creditors is it to whom I have sold you? Behold, for your iniquities have ye sold yourselves, and for your transgressions is your mother put away. Where's your mother's certificate of divorce with which I sent her away? Or to which of my creditors did I sell you? Because of your sins you were sold. Because of your transgressions your mother was sent away. When God came, why was there no one? When he called, why was there no one to answer? Was his arm too short to deliver? Did he lack the strength to rescue? By a mere rebuke he dried up the sea, he turned rivers into a desert. Their fish rotted for lack of water and died of thirst. He clothed the heavens with darkness and made sackcloth its covering. Then in verse 4, the servant begins to speak. "The Lord God hath given me the tongue of the learned, that I should know how to speak a word in season to him that is weary. He wakeneth morning by morning, he wakeneth mine ear to hear as the learned. The sovereign Lord has given him a well-instructed tongue, to know the word that sustains the weary. He wakens him morning by morning, wakens his ear to listen like one being instructed. The sovereign Lord has opened his ear, and he hasn't been rebellious, he hasn't turned away. He offered his back to those who beat him, his cheeks to those who pulled out his beard. He didn't hide his face from mocking and spitting. Because the sovereign Lord helps him, he won't be disgraced. Therefore he's set his face like flint, and he knows he won't be put to shame. He who vindicates him is near. Who then will bring charges against him? Let them confront him. It's the sovereign Lord who helps him. Who will condemn him? They'll all wear out like a garment, the moths will eat them up. Who among you fears the Lord and obeys the word of his servant? Let the one who walks in the dark, who has no light, trust in the name of the Lord and rely on their God. But now, all you who light fires and provide yourselves with flaming torches, go walk in the light of your fires and of the torches you've set ablaze. This is what you'll receive from God's hand. You'll lie down in torment. Chapter 52 begins preparing for the greatest revelation in Isaiah. Starting at verse 13, God announces, "Behold, my servant shall deal prudently. He shall be exalted and extolled, and be very high. See, my servant will act wisely. He'll be raised and lifted up and highly exalted, just as there were many who were appalled at him. His appearance was so disfigured beyond that of any human being, and his form marred beyond human likeness. So he'll sprinkle many nations, and kings will shut their mouths because of him. For what they weren't told, they'll see, and what they haven't heard, they'll understand." Chapter 53 continues with the question in verse 1. "Who hath believed our report? And to whom is the arm of the Lord revealed? Who has believed our message, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? He grew up before God like a tender shoot, and like a root out of dry ground. He had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him, nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by mankind, a man of suffering and familiar with pain. Like one from whom people hide their faces, he was despised, and we held him in low esteem." Surely in verse 4, the truth breaks through. "Surely he hath borne our griefs, and carried our sorrows. Yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted. Surely he took up our pain and bore our suffering. Yet we considered him punished by God, stricken by him, and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him, and by his wounds we're healed. We all, like sheep, have gone astray. Each of us has turned to our own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and afflicted, yet he didn't open his mouth. He was led like a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before its shearers is silent, so he didn't open his mouth. By oppression and judgment he was taken away. Yet who of his generation protested? For he was cut off from the land of the living. For the transgression of my people he was punished. He was assigned a grave with the wicked, and with the rich in his death, though he'd done no violence, nor was any deceit in his mouth. Yet it was the Lord's will to crush him and cause him to suffer. And though the Lord makes his life an offering for sin, he'll see his offspring and prolong his days. And the will of the Lord will prosper in his hand. After he has suffered, he'll see the light of life and be satisfied. By his knowledge, my righteous servant will justify many, and he'll bear their iniquities. Therefore God will give him a portion among the great, and he'll divide the spoils with the strong, because he poured out his life unto death, and was numbered with the transgressors. For he bore the sin of many and made intercession for the transgressors. Chapter 54 opens with a command in verse 1. Sing, O barren, thou that didst not bear. Break forth into singing and cry aloud, thou that didst not travail with child. For more are the children of the desolate than the children of the married wife, saith the Lord. Sing, barren woman, you who never bore a child. Burst into song, shout for joy, you who were never in labor, because more are the children of the desolate woman than of her who has a husband. Enlarge the place of your tent. Stretch your tent curtains wide, don't hold back. Lengthen your cords, strengthen your stakes. For you'll spread out to the right and to the left. Your descendants will dispossess nations and settle in their desolate cities. Don't be afraid. You won't be put to shame. Don't fear disgrace, you won't be humiliated. You'll forget the shame of your youth and remember no more the reproach of your widowhood. For your Maker is your husband, the Lord Almighty is his name, the Holy One of Israel is your Redeemer. He's called the God of all the earth. The Lord will call you back as if you were a wife, deserted and distressed in spirit, a wife who married young only to be rejected. For a brief moment God abandoned you, but with deep compassion he'll bring you back. In a surge of anger he hid his face from you for a moment, but with everlasting kindness he'll have compassion on you. To God this is like the days of Noah, when he swore that the waters of Noah would never again cover the earth. So now he's sworn not to be angry with you, never to rebuke you again. Though the mountains be shaken and the hills be removed, yet his unfailing love for you won't be shaken, nor his covenant of peace be removed. Afflicted city, lashed by storms and not comforted. He'll rebuild you with stones of turquoise, your foundations with lapis lazuli. He'll make your battlements of rubies, your gates of sparkling jewels, and all your walls of precious stones. All your children will be taught by the Lord, and great will be their peace. In righteousness you'll be established. Tyranny will be far from you, you'll have nothing to fear. Terror will be far removed, it won't come near you. If anyone does attack you, it won't be his doing. Whoever attacks you will surrender to you. Chapter 55 begins with an invitation in verse 1. Ho, everyone that thirsteth, come ye to the waters, and he that hath no money. Come ye buy and eat. Yea, come buy wine and milk without money and without price. Come all you who are thirsty, come to the waters. And you who have no money, come buy and eat. Come, buy wine and milk without money and without cost. Why spend money on what isn't bread, and your labor on what doesn't satisfy? Listen to God and eat what is good, and you'll delight in the richest of fare. Give ear and come to him, listen, that you may live. He'll make an everlasting covenant with you, his faithful love promised to David. See, he has made him a witness to the peoples, a ruler and commander of the peoples. Surely you'll summon nations you know not, and nations you don't know will come running to you. Because of the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel, for he has endowed you with splendor. Seek the Lord while he may be found, call on him while he's near. Let the wicked forsake their ways, and the unrighteous their thoughts. Let them turn to the Lord, and he'll have mercy on them, and to our God, for he'll freely pardon. In verse 8, God declares, For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord. For my thoughts aren't your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. As the rain and the snow come down from heaven, and don't return to it without watering the earth, and making it bud and flourish, so that it yields seed for the sower and bread for the eater, so is my word that goes out from my mouth. It won't return to me empty, but will accomplish what I desire and achieve the purpose for which I sent it. You'll go out in joy and be led forth in peace. The mountains and hills will burst into song before you, and all the trees of the field will clap their hands. Instead of the thorn bush will grow the juniper, and instead of briars the myrtle will grow. This will be for the Lord's renown, for an everlasting sign that won't be destroyed. Chapter 56 opens with God's call in verse 1. Thus saith the Lord, keep ye judgment and do justice, for my salvation is near to come, and my righteousness to be revealed. Maintain justice and do what is right. For my salvation is close at hand, and my righteousness will soon be revealed. Blessed is anyone who does this, the person who holds it fast, who keeps the Sabbath without desecrating it, and keeps their hands from doing any evil. Let no foreigner who is bound to the Lord say that the Lord will surely exclude them from his people. And let no eunuch complain that he's only a dry tree. For the Lord says to the eunuchs who keep his Sabbaths, who choose what pleases him and hold fast to his covenant, to them he'll give within his temple and its walls a memorial and a name better than sons and daughters. He'll give them an everlasting name that won't be endured, and foreigners who bind themselves to the Lord to minister to him, to love the name of the Lord and to be his servants, all who keep the Sabbath without desecrating it and who hold fast to his covenant. These he'll bring to his holy mountain and give them joy in his house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and sacrifices will be accepted on his altar, for his house will be called a house of prayer for all nations, the sovereign Lord. Declares he who gathers the exiles of Israel in verse 8, I will gather still others to them, besides those already gathered. He'll gather still others to them, besides those already gathered. Chapter 60 continues this theme of universal blessing. In verse 1, the call goes out, Arise, shine, for thy light is come, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon thee. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. See, darkness covers the earth, and thick darkness is over the peoples. But the Lord rises upon you, and his glory appears over you. Nations will come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your dawn. Lift up your eyes and look about you. All assemble and come to you. Your sons come from afar, and your daughters are carried on the hip. Then you'll look and be radiant. Your heart will throb and swell with joy. The wealth on the seas will be brought to you. To you the riches of the nations will come. Herds of camels will cover your land, young camels of Midian and Ephah, and all from Sheba will come, bearing gold and incense and proclaiming the praise of the Lord. Foreigners will rebuild your walls, and their kings will serve you. Though in anger he struck you, in favor he'll show you compassion. Chapter 58 addresses religious hypocrisy. God tells Isaiah in verse 1, Cry aloud, spare not, lift up thy voice like a trumpet, and show my people their transgression, and the house of Jacob their sins. Shout it aloud, don't hold back. Raise your voice like a trumpet. Declare to my people their rebellion, and to the descendants of Jacob their sins. For day after day they seek God out. They seem eager to know his ways, as if they were a nation that does what is right and hasn't forsaken the commands of its God. They ask him for just decisions and seem eager for God to come near them. They ask in verse 3, Wherefore have we fasted? Say they, and thou seest not. Wherefore have we afflicted our soul, and thou takest no knowledge? Why have we fasted, and you haven't seen it? Why have we humbled ourselves, and you haven't noticed? Yet on the day of your fasting, you do as you please and exploit all your workers. Your fasting ends in quarreling and strife, and in striking each other with wicked fists. You can't fast as you do today and expect your voice to be heard on high. Is this the kind of fast God has chosen, only a day for people to humble themselves? Is it only for bowing one's head like a reed and for lying in sackcloth and ashes? Is that what you call a fast, a day acceptable to the Lord? In verse 6, God reveals what he truly wants. Is not this the fast that I have chosen? To loose the bands of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, and to let the oppressed go free, and that ye break every yoke. Isn't this the kind of fasting God has chosen? To loose the chains of injustice and untie the cords of the yoke, to set the oppressed free and break every yoke? Isn't it to share your food with the hungry and to provide the poor wanderer with shelter? When you see the naked, to clothe them and not to turn away from your own flesh and blood? Then your light will break forth like the dawn, and your healing will quickly appear. Then your righteousness will go before you, and the glory of the Lord will be your rear guard. Then you'll call, and the Lord will answer. You'll cry for help, and he'll say, "Here am I." If you do away with the yoke of oppression, with the pointing finger and malicious talk, and if you spend yourselves in behalf of the hungry and satisfy the needs of the oppressed, then your light will rise in the darkness, and your night will become like the noonday. Regarding the Sabbath, God says in verse 13, "If thou turn away thy foot from the Sabbath, from doing thy pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight, the holy of the Lord honorable, and shalt honor him, not doing thine own ways, nor finding thine own pleasure, nor speaking thine own words. If you keep your feet from breaking the Sabbath, and from doing as you please on his holy day, if you call the Sabbath a delight, and the Lord's holy day honorable, and if you honor it by not going your own way, and not doing as you please or speaking idle words, then you'll find your joy in the Lord." Chapter 59 begins with a powerful statement in verse 1. "Behold, the Lord's hand is not shortened that it cannot save, neither his ear heavy that it cannot hear. Surely the arm of the Lord isn't too short to save, nor his ear too dull to hear, but your iniquities have separated you from your God. Your sins have hidden his face from you, so that he won't hear. For your hands are stained with blood, your fingers with guilt. Your lips have spoken falsely, and your tongue mutters wicked things. No one calls for justice, no one pleads a case with integrity. They rely on empty arguments, they speak lies. They conceive trouble and give birth to evil. They hatch the eggs of vipers and spin a spider's web. Whoever eats their eggs will die, and when one is broken, an adder is hatched. Their cobwebs are useless for clothing. They can't cover themselves with what they make. Their deeds are evil deeds, and acts of violence are in their hands. Their feet rush into sin. They're swift to shed innocent blood. They pursue evil schemes. Acts of violence mark their ways. The way of peace they don't know. There's no justice in their paths. They've turned them into crooked roads. No one who walks along them will know peace. So justice is far from us, and righteousness doesn't reach us. We look for light, but all is darkness, for brightness, but we walk in deep shadows. Like the blind, we grope along the wall, feeling our way like people without eyes. At midday, we stumble as if it were twilight. Among the strong, we're like the dead. We all growl like bears. We moan mournfully like doves. We look for justice, but find none, for deliverance, but it's far away. For our offenses are many in your sight, and our sins testify against us. Our offenses are ever with us, and we acknowledge our iniquities. We've rebelled and been treacherous to the Lord. We've turned our backs on our God. We've incited revolt and oppression. We've uttered lies our hearts conceived, so justice is driven back, and righteousness stands at a distance. Truth has stumbled in the streets, honesty can't enter. Truth is nowhere to be found, and whoever shuns evil becomes a prey. The Lord looked and was displeased that there was no justice. He saw that there was no one. He was appalled that there was no one to intervene. So his own arm achieved salvation for him, and his own righteousness sustained him. He put on righteousness as his breastplate, and the helmet of salvation on his head. He put on the garments of vengeance, and wrapped himself in zeal as in a cloak. In chapter 62, Isaiah refuses to remain silent. In verse 1 he declares, "For Zion's sake will I not hold my peace, And for Jerusalem's sake I will not rest, until the righteousness thereof go forth as brightness, and the salvation thereof as a lamp that burneth. For Zion's sake he won't keep silent, for Jerusalem's sake he won't remain quiet, till her vindication shines out like the dawn, her salvation like a blazing torch. The nations will see your vindication, and all kings your glory. You'll be called by a new name that the mouth of the Lord will bestow. You'll be a crown of splendor in the Lord's hand, a royal diadem in the hand of your God. No longer will they call you deserted or name your land desolate, but you'll be called Hephzibah and your land Beulah, for the Lord will take delight in you, and your land will be married. As a young man marries a young woman, so will your builder marry you. As a bridegroom rejoices over his bride, so will your God rejoice over you. Chapter 65 reveals God's response to those who seek him. In verse 1, God says, I am sought of them that asked not for me. I am found of them that sought me not. I said, behold me, unto a nation that was not called by my name. Abrin, I revealed myself to those who didn't ask for me. I was found by those who didn't seek me. To a nation that didn't call on my name, I said, here am I, all day long. He's held out his hands to an obstinate people, who walk in ways not good, pursuing their own imaginations, a people who continually provoke him to his very face, offering sacrifices in gardens and burning incense on altars of brick. But God will create something entirely new. In verse 17 he declares, for behold, I create new heavens and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered, nor come into mind. See, I'll create new heavens and a new earth. The former things won't be remembered, nor will they come to mind. But be glad and rejoice forever in what he'll create, for he'll create Jerusalem to be a delight and its people a joy. He'll rejoice over Jerusalem and take delight in his people. The sound of weeping and of crying will be heard in it no more. Never again will there be in it an infant who lives but a few days, or an old man who doesn't live out his years. The one who dies at 100 will be thought a mere child. The one who fails to reach 100 will be considered accursed. They'll build houses and dwell in them. They'll plant vineyards and eat their fruit. No longer will they build houses and others live in them, or plant and others eat. For as the days of a tree, so will be the days of my people. My chosen ones will long enjoy the work of their hands. They won't labor in vain, nor will they bear. Children doomed to misfortune, for they'll be a people blessed by the Lord, they and their descendants with them. Before they call, he'll answer. While they're still speaking, he'll hear. The wolf and the lamb will feed together, and the lion will eat straw like the ox, and dust will be the serpent's food. They won't hurt or destroy on all his holy mountain. Chapter 66 opens with God's declaration in verse 1. Thus saith the Lord, the heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool. Where is the house that ye build unto me? And where is the place of my rest? Heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool. Where is the house you'll build for me? Where will my resting place be? Has not his hand made all these things, and so they came into being? These are the ones he looks on with favor, those who are humble and contrite in spirit, and who tremble at his word. In verse 22, God gives his final promise, for as the new heavens and the new earth which I will make shall remain before me, saith the Lord, so shall your seed and your name remain. As the new heavens and the new earth that he'll make will endure before him, so will your name and descendants endure. From one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, all mankind will come and bow down before him, and they'll go out and look on the dead bodies of those who rebelled against him. The worms that eat them won't die, the fire that burns them won't be quenched, and they'll be loathsome to all mankind. If this journey through Isaiah impacted you, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button right now. We're breaking down more books of the Bible in ways you've never experienced before, and you won't want to miss what's coming next. And here's the thing. There's someone in your life who needs to hear this. Share this video with them. Send it to a friend, post it on your story. Let this message reach someone who's searching for hope. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.